Hi, so welcome everyone to the Heart of England Agile User Group. We're a member of the Scrum Alliance Pro Network and we are covered by their code of conduct. There's a link on one of the slides actually, but I can summarize the code of conduct. It basically is be excellent to each other and we'll all get along absolutely fine. If anyone is collecting Scrum educational units, SEUs, they can be collected for attending this event, and I can send you a link which will automatically add it to your Scrum Alliance profile. So if you need those, drop me a line, I can sort that out for you. Next slide, please, Nadine. So for those that don't know me, there's a couple of new people here. My name's Nigel. I'm a certified Agile coach. I've been doing this kind of thing for about 10 years, but this year, excitedly, I got my Agile certified coaching certificate and certified Agile team facilitation certificate, which was good fun, but hard work because it meant more Zoom meetings after doing Zoom meetings all day for about 6 or 7 weeks. So let's move on to the final slide from me. There's a few house rules. So camera on is always good to help with interaction with people, especially in the Q&A at the end. Be present, be respectful. If you've got people screaming at each other in the background, dog or cats, postman at the door, ring the doorbell, muting your mic is a great idea. And actually, for the code of conduct, if you just Google Scrum Alliance Code of Conduct, you will find that. So that's my little bit done. It just leaves me to introduce Nadine and Romano, who will be speaking to us tonight. So Nadine is an Agile coach and has many of the qualities. I was looking on her LinkedIn profile and can't possibly summarize them all, so I'll let her do that. Romano is a DevOps guy, equally with many titles and much experience against his name. So I will also let him introduce himself. Over to you guys.
Thanks for the introduction and good evening, UK. Thanks for joining. So sad we cannot be in Birmingham today, especially with that picture in the background we saw earlier, but we'll do that once in the future. Today, we want to take you along a journey around participatory budgeting, how financing these days can be done. We tried that. We gave it a try, and we can say we like it. We'll redo it actually in the upcoming month. So we're going to speak for a little bit. We brought an agenda with us. We're going to tell you a bit about ourselves, why we do the things we do. We'll bring you the concept of participatory budgeting, but then mostly we'll focus on the event itself, what we experienced, what we prepared, how the event went, and what actually we learned. Just before we're then curious about your questions that you might have, and also your experiences, what you have read, what you've seen, and maybe you have also already done it. So looking really much forward to that discussion, and then we'll round it up and then head back to Nigel for the sum up of this Scrum event. So much for the beginning. Thanks for having us. We're looking forward to the next half hour with participatory budgeting. A little bit about ourselves, but previously we'd like to bring that disclaimer for you. We know that we're here guests for the Scrum user group. Nevertheless, the concept we bring, we adapted from SAFe. So we'll also share where you can get actually the templates we used, and content is provided by SAFe, their materials. So that as a disclaimer in the beginning. Second disclaimer is not about the content, but about us. We bring you some anonymized examples. You'll see we'll bring a lot of fruits in here, from apples to bananas and all the good things you can get. The reason for that is just protection of our own company. That's Zühlke Engineering. We're based in Switzerland, but we are also distributed among other locations, as for example, in the UK, where we also have friends on board today. We do not sell fruits, but other good stuff like highly skilled engineer work and bringing you projects from discovery into operations all the way along. So if you have a case, you can always approach us, but today is about money and budgets. So as mentioned previously, we also have adapted the value stream and the processes to the needs of Zühlke. So what you see here is not as it was written in the books. And also please be aware that SAFe documentation for the implementation according to SAFe can be found online and not in that presentation because of the customization we did. So much for the disclaimer. What about us? I mentioned it previously. You see the network of Zühlke. We're quite all over the place with our mission to empower ideas. We're all in innovation and technology, which is actually pretty much also why we did participatory budgeting. It's new, it's trend, and it can actually bring some good ideas and new values to how we do things. Zühlke is global. We're an innovation service provider, and I hope to see you soon again. If not directly face to face, you can also find us on different channels you see on the left. You can also connect to Romano and myself over those channels, or just follow Zühlke directly. You will find us there as well. So, what about me? Nigel mentioned it. I in Agile, in transformation, in product management, and coaching. And my passion is actually the human thing, the human factor, where relations meet technology and where transformation is needed and comes into play. As mentioned, you can find me on various channels. Those here are the most important ones where I actually also respond. So please get in touch. Let's connect and stay in touch. So far for me, I'm not here by myself. Romano and I'm doing that together. Romano, over to you.
Yeah, hi. And thank you for having us at your meetup. So my name is Romano Roth, and I'm the head of DevOps at Zühlke. I work for Zühlke now since 19 years. I joined Zühlke directly after university as a junior .NET engineer. I worked in this area quite a long time, became an expert software engineer, and then also an architect. But one of the things that always was at my heart was the DevOps topic. So therefore, I'm creating right now some videos on the DevOps topic. I have my own YouTube channel with a lot of videos where I explain stuff around DevOps. And I'm also one of the organizers of the DevOps meetup, a similar meetup like this one, but only on DevOps in Zurich. Normally we meet in person, but at the moment, all of our meetups are online. So you can also join our next meetup, which will be in October, where Andreas Grabner will have a talk about SLOs and quality gates. So, and I'm also one of the organizers of the DevOps Days Zurich. We had our DevOps Days in person 2 weeks ago. It was absolutely amazing. And the next DevOps Days will be, I think, on the 31st of March. We are currently organizing exactly that. And but we will announce that very soon. As you can see, DevOps is really my topic. I really love that topic, and right now I'm with different clients in Agile transformations and DevOps transformations. Yeah, next. But today we will talk about participatory budgeting. So what exactly is the problem that we have? Next. So when we look back at Zühlke, then at Zühlke we sell a lot of stuff. We have different areas, and we of course also invest in these areas. These areas here are apple, bananas, lemons, melons, and so on. Of course, in the real Zühlke, these are different areas. Now, to sell more apple or sell more bananas, we of course invest in these areas. And for that, we have a budget. And there is a fruit committee which says who or which team becomes how much money. So I became a member of that committee. And the first thing I saw in that committee, that they were gathering all of the bright ideas from the different teams. So for example, Apple wanted to make bigger apples, Banana wanted to make blue bananas, and so on. And they were in this Excel sheet, and behind that, there was also an estimate how much money they need to have to bring this new idea to the market. So the problem was, of course, this money that you saw in there was double or 3 times the amount that we could spend. So the fruit committee said, yeah, same procedure as last year. Everything is cut by half, and we just go over it and distribute the money. And I was saying, well, come on, this cannot be. We need to understand which one of these things is strategic and where we want to invest our money. But that was too much effort. So they did that. And I said, hey, guys, we need to do that differently. So that's the problem which we have. Next. So the solution to this problem is participatory budgeting, which we have introduced and which we will also show you. But to understand participatory budgeting, we first need to understand some of the theory, which I will cover now. Next. So in the Scaled Agile framework, you have that layer with the portfolio. And what is important about the Scaled Agile framework, you need to look at the Scaled Agile framework in the following way. There are some smart people at Scaled Agile. They have read tons of books, and they just digested everything together into that framework, so that you don't need to read all of these good books. You can use that framework, and as I always say, just use that framework like a toolbox. Take out of this toolbox what fits your needs. And what we will now have a look at is exactly at that portfolio level. And we will only use that small thing in green that you see there, that PB, that's the participatory budgeting. So we just take that out and we applied exactly that. You don't need to apply everything, but of course it is necessary to understand a little bit also of the background. Next. So first of all, we need to understand what exactly a portfolio is. So a portfolio is something that manages multiple value stream. And what a value stream is something I will cover later. But it is important to understand that a portfolio has multiple value streams, and these value streams, they are producing something. And usually when you look at a portfolio, many of the companies you have, they have a portfolio already or multiple portfolios. So usually they are specific units or divisions. Next. So when we look at a small enterprise, then usually a small enterprise has one portfolio and a large enterprise has multiple portfolios. And each one of these portfolios can, of course, have multiple strategic themes or goals. Next. When we look at Zühlke, then of course Zühlke is a large company and we have multiple portfolios, and this is the big picture we will always show you, and we will now stick everything together. So we have multiple portfolios, and the portfolio which we are looking at is the fruit portfolio. So the key message behind that is always when you have a portfolio, this portfolio is delivered by value streams, multiple value streams. So what exactly is a value stream? A value stream is a process, sort of a process chain where you have a trigger and then you have process steps, and then the end you have value. So the problem which we have is that usually our companies are organized in business units or silos. And the problem is value flows through these silos. And the main problem which we have is you have political boundaries and you have handoffs between the silos. And this hinders the real value flow. So that's why many of the organizations today are changing their organizations into the direction of value streams so that the value flows through that. Next. When we look at Zühlke, then we also are reorganizing ourselves. So instead of having a team of apples and different other teams, and we have handoffs between these teams, we have organized ourselves into value streams. And we have a value stream for apple, we have one for banana, and so on. So now the question is, when you are reorganizing around value streams, how do you do then the funding? Because you don't have these teams anymore. Let's have a look. So first of all, what is very important, in the past, many companies have funded projects, but a project is something that has a start and it has an end. When you have value streams, then you are going to fund these value streams. So you are going to fund capacity. So you fund the people and the resources within these value streams within a portfolio. That's an important change. Next. When we look at Zühlke, then we see that we of course have the enterprise, which has a budget, and a portion of that budget goes into the fruit portfolio, and we are going to distribute this part of the budget to these different value streams. And of course, you can also see on the top, on the left, that of course we have a strategy and we have OKRs for this portfolio. So another thing which we need to know is epics. Next, when you look at epics, then epics are containers for a significant solution or for a significant initiative. So what's the difference then to a project? In the epic, we strive or we have a hypothesis. So we say, okay, with this epic, we want to achieve that. And we also have leading indicators which we use to achieve that, or which says, hey, now the hypothesis is true. When we look at the project, then usually a project has a start, a beginning, a start point and an end. And it also has a set of requirements which you need to fulfill. And you, of course, have also a budget. And this is something completely different. When we look at the next picture, then we see here the epic hypothesis statement, which is quite crucial. This is not a project description. This is now an epic with a hypothesis behind. The hypothesis description is usually in the form of for who, is, and so on. And we have also a clear business outcome. And the most important thing is the leading indicators, because what we want to do with an epic is we want to validate our hypothesis. An example, when you are developing a mobile app and you have a new feature, then you have a hypothesis because you want to add that new feature. And the hypothesis behind that is perhaps that you can sell 10% more products when you add that feature to your mobile app. So that will be your hypothesis. And the leading indicators would be that thing which tells you as fast as possible if your hypothesis is true. So we are going into the direction of having an epic with a hypothesis which we can validate as fast as possible to know if we need to invest more money or not. And that's the difference to a project, because in a project, we just have a list of requirements and we implement everything. So here we have exit criteria. So the epic hypothesis makes sure that we are delivering the real the right thing. Next. When we look at that, then of course our value streams, they have epics, which they have. They have hypotheses. They say, okay, if we sell blue bananas, then we can increase our sales by 10%, for example. Or if we make bigger apples, then more people will buy the bigger apples. That's what's behind these epics. And they create these epics, and with these epics we are going into the participatory budgeting. And now the big question to you, Nadine, is how do we distribute then the budget by using participatory budgeting?
Yeah, that's the big question on the evening. Thanks, Romano, for the introduction. So I hope you're all having a good glimpse where we're coming from. Starting with a portfolio, getting into the value streams and down to the epics, because that's the concept we're going to use. For now, for a start, we talked about value streams and we talked about adjustment. It's not set in stone that if a value stream has a budget, that this sits forever and that it's going to be repeated year after year. No, that's not how we act. We adjust to changes because that's important, and we want to act proactively and not react to customer needs and new desires. So typically, value stream budgets are adjusted twice annually. This gives us enough freedom and agility to bring in new stuff and the new ideas and the new lessons we've learned. And on the same time, it gives us a bit of a guardrail that a budget is set and we can handle that budget for this half-year time span. On the right-hand side, you see an example. If you have a look, for example, at value stream 2 in dark blue, they had their budget set and stayed the same for the first half a year. However, in the second half a year, something has changed. Somehow they came up with a brilliant idea, which made it obvious that they are gonna be investing some more budget compared to the value stream 3 in yellow orange color. They reduced their budget according to maybe their resources, maybe what they're focusing on, maybe on supporting other streams. Who knows what's happening there, but those are changes that could happen. So adjustment over time is important, and so is how you adjust the budgets. The thing is, normally you have more good ideas than you can actually fund. So it's not the best idea to just cut budgets by half, as we've seen in the beginning of the presentation. The idea is to use the big brain of all the participants in the room. And as you can see on the picture, that's how such a table discussion can look like. Collaboratively, people discuss the epics that you've seen and been presented by Romano, and they think about which ones of those are bringing the biggest benefit to the whole portfolio. So for every fruit, and not just the apples, because they're shiny and red. So the choice lies within the participants, and also given that budgets are going to be adjusted over time, you always get another chance to present other ideas, to think about other streams, and maybe to collaborate together to make bigger movements forward and to help the portfolio grow. That's a situation that we wanted to bring to Zühlke and to our portfolio. So we started with the preparation, which was actually more work than we thought of. The first part, we started with preparing the content. So we gathered the people, the head of the apples and the chief or the deputy chief of the bananas, and we explained to them what we explained to you just now. Why we do this, what does our portfolio look like, and how could you get your ideas into the form of an epic so that we can compare, present, and also contrast different ideas from our portfolio. We then had another thought about the right people, because we didn't want to have vegetables in. This is about our fruit portfolio. So vegetables stayed out, fruits got in. And we also thought about taking in, for example, the tiny little value stream just growing, dragon fruits. Not so fancy, not so popular these days, but in the upcoming cycle we're talking about, they had a say. So they got their seat at the table. And what we also needed to do is to understand the budget composition. On all those slides, you saw this tiny little icon with the budget. So we talked to management, talking to the fruits committee and asking them for the real constraints to see how much budget we actually can distribute and to fund the brilliant ideas of our value streams in the form of epics, of course. So the question in the room is, how did the prep go? It was pretty tough. We started with the common knowledge. As we're both SPCs from SAFE, we started with the toolkit and the templates we had. For anyone listening to that talk, if you're an SPC within SAFE and you have a valid license, you can actually access what we could. If you go into the community, you can download the presentation, you can download the Excel sheet that gives you a first start of how you could actually calculate all of that. We did that and we pretty early figured out that's not working for us. So we made adjustments to the Excel, to the presentation. We customized it to our needs. Then we had a look about our schedule. Was tight, I can tell you. So in the beginning of May, you see this the schedule we brought here. We started with introduction sessions when we teach them about the concept and where their role is in the whole thing. We then gave them a short duration of 2 weeks to come up with their proposals. Once for the run, so run the business part of the budget and to grow the business, so RTB and GTB. How much does your value stream need to stay operational? How much money you need to have that you can handle by yourself? And how much money do you invest in new ideas, in growing your value stream? So whichever idea they came up with, they put that into a form of a epic. So those are the grow ideas, the grow epics. We shared at the end of the prep time, we shared the Excel and we filled it up with all the ideas they had. That was the job of Romano and myself as the moderator of that session. We did that work. And I can tell you it was pretty good, that Excel, with a lot of functions in. We learned quite a deal. On mid-May, you see it here in bold, we hold the Participated Budgeting event. In one afternoon, we talked to, we went through it with a tiny little recap and then into the discussion at the tables. And you see, that was quite successful. Only one day after, we could communicate the final budget for the next half a year. If we do a tiny little recap in that point of time, you remember the big picture. The key inputs we could focus on is the strategy of Zühlke, the OKRs that have been given to us already. So all our epics and our ideas were basing on those. We had been given the total amount of budget available, and from our value stream leads, we got their brightest of ideas in the form of epics so that each value stream had an idea to present and convince the whole portfolio of their brilliant thoughts. We then gathered and in mid-May, and we reached key outputs. So the idea would be maybe we had new value streams that emerged. In our case, didn't. And it would also be an option that the epics needed to be prioritized because not every epic can be funded. and they maybe need to be made ready for the next cycle. Then we hit the big event. You see, it's a tight schedule. It was one afternoon, just one afternoon. We started with a first round of discussions. You see in the bigger part with run the business. We let our value stream leads pitch for their budget. We went into discussions where we separated our 14 participants onto two tables, table A and table B, and we gave them the whole information they had on run the business budgets. So they had a discussion among themselves. 7 people with 1 moderator discussing run the business budget slices for 14 value streams. So they had 7 people on the table that could elaborate and share, but they had to think for 14 streams. Was quite a challenge, but we had given them a briefing and they did pretty well. We gathered again in the whole team, and we came to an agreement. Some run parts got reduced. Others offered help to say, if you want to dig deeper in that kind of technology, we've done that. Let's collaborate. We help you. So we did a tiny break so people could get some fresh air, because now for the grow part, the whole interesting thing was actually just to start. We did a recap where we recalculated the budget, and we did the whole thing again. We again went into 2 table discussions, table A and table B, with 7 participants and a moderator. And again, they had to think for 14 value streams, presenting their epics, their ideas. And we actually didn't have 1 epic per value stream. Actually not. It was rather that they have 3, 4, or 5 brilliant ideas they brought to the table. So as you see, time was tight, but we made it and we came to an agreement. The last minutes we spent on reviewing the portfolio and gathering in a confidence vote that people could say how confident they are that this participation, and with that budgeting that we reached, that they are confident that this is leading to the best example possible. We had little feedback around, and the findings we're going to share next. But first, back to our big picture here. Remember, we've been talking about strategy, we've been talking about the whole portfolio, and we talked about epics per value stream. All that was leading into a final agreement. We were using the brain of everyone to come to a conclusion. In detail, it looked like that. For the run part, the table 1 was discussing the whole budget again. So actually they could have said, let's just split 100K among 14 streams. That's fair enough, we could do that. But they didn't. They actually came up with a better solution. They come up with lean solutions and an agreement that they wanted to spare some of the budget for actually the bigger ideas, for the grow part. And when we gathered again, you see the number 3, we came together, we asked the question, can that be done better? Can that be done leaner? And the answer was yes. They actually cut budget again, made their organization run smoother so that we had more money to spend on the epics actually, which was round 2, where we went into the intense discussions about epics, where we presented the grow the business budgets again, and people were happy that they shared their ideas in the beginning. We collaborated about among an Excel. So here we brought you an example from it. Here you see the group 1 this, table discussion from grow the business. We actually tweaked it around, and you see in the orange box on top, we gave them options to discuss. So they could say, we do an option saying the whole budget is just going into apples, because who doesn't love apples? They could also discuss an option 2 saying, we just fund value streams with a B in the name. Or they could go with an option 3. So they had options to discuss and see. The target was by end of time, you get an agreement. And that's all you do. While see on the right-hand side, you have the thought of 14. You don't think for yourself. You don't think for just group 1. You think for everyone and every value stream in that portfolio. In the final agreement, we had the investment in the investment shared. So from the 100K in the beginning, a run part was deducted. That means you could not invest as much and go over the budget. That, for example, resulted in the bananas epic number 2, which they called mysteriously X. It didn't get funded because there were other more brilliant ideas. And we managed to distribute the budget and end up with a tiny, tiny little free budget. So we said, well done, guys. That's reduced to the max. Last step in that whole process was the analysis. We discussed the results in the whole group, see where we got, and we verified the investments with the guardrails given to us in the beginning. Didn't we go over budget? Did we respect the OKRs? Did we respect the main focus areas of Zühlke and where we want to go to? We did final decisions, final little tweaks, and we sent it over for management for the fruits portfolio to have final say with it and have a discussion with us. And that's where we actually ended it and saying, there's only one thing left. Do it. And that's what we then did. So in our case, we only had so-called virtual changes to do. We had more collaboration where the Apple thought about having an offering which was similar to bananas without anything that you need to peel off. And we didn't do organizational changes, which would have been needed to bring in HR or legal. So value streams stayed as is, no people changes, no structural changes in our case. And we started to work with the leaders of the streams so that they could communicate and implement the changes. And the next day, we actually made it that all the changes were implemented in our system, and the leaders had the budgets available ready the next day to get started on the most brilliant epics that they had pitched for. We thought quite an interesting event, and we collected some feedback from various sides. I think I've talked enough. Romano, what did we learn from that event?
Quite a lot. It was really very, very interesting. It was also very interesting for Nadine and me to do the moderation in there because we also saw quite a lot of stuff. So first of all, the thing when you can go to the next slide, the thing which we saw was the transparency. And also our participants were exactly saying to us this. Before, everybody just put their things into this Excel, but they had no clue what the apples are doing or what the bananas were doing. But because of that 1 or 2 minute pitch, they were very they had the knowledge of what exactly they were doing, and that was very, very good, because what we could see is that suddenly the bananas were saying, the lemons are doing special lemons, and we want to do that also. And they said, okay, then let's put the budget to the lemons, and we as bananas, we don't need to do that because the lemons are doing that. And that was absolutely amazing. So transparency that you get out of that is really a game changer. And then the good collaborative discussions. We had very good discussions, and what Nadine and I saw was a lot of discussions like, yeah, I have brought that epic in, but I see that my epic is not strategic. It is not aligned with the strategic goals of Zühlke. So they said, okay, but the other epic, for example, from Apple, they are aligned with the strategic goals of Zühlke. So let's invest into that. And we had very good discussions exactly about this. What we also could see is, you just saw that it was very, we had a very tight schedule, and within 3 hours, we were able to get a budget. So this process is very efficient, and that's a very, very good thing. And of course, Nadine made the moderation very, very good. So that was an absolutely amazing event that we had. What we also got from the participants is that they want to have more time to prepare these things. In my opinion, yes, of course, we can give them more time, but in the end, usually what they are doing, they do that in the last moment, these epics. So it is something that in the new participatory budgeting, which we are doing in November, is something which will give them, they get now 4 weeks to prepare their epics. No top-down budgeting is of course something. Before it was really top-down, and that's something that feels very good for the participants. So that's a real cool thing. And what they also said, it would be good, and this is a very interesting point, it would be good if there would be an upfront meeting where they could align. And now this is really the thing about participatory budgeting. Here, the people are really coming together. They are discussing together about the budgeting, about the strategic initiatives. So they get this entrepreneurial mindset now. So they say, okay, when we have that budget and we have these strategic initiatives, then we need to first align, and we need to align the priorities. So now they really get this thinking about the company, about the strategy, not only about me, and my budget and my area. It's all about, okay, hey, we now need to think together so that we invest in the right thing. And that's amazing. And what they also wanted to have is more information about, of course, the epics. The Excel, you just saw it, the Excel is quite huge. And there was already a lot of information in there, but they want more. It is something which we will do, because what we will do next in the next participatory budgeting is we, of course, will show how much budget was burned and if they have reached their goals. So they get this information, and it will be quite interesting who gets then the money. So that was the feedback from the participants, and let's see what we say. So first of all, the motivation and the buy-in from the participants is very important. If you have people who don't want to do that, you really need to go into the discussion with them and motivate them. So moderation is a key thing you need to do in that. You will have people who say, what's that, and why do I need to do that? But as soon as they are in that process, they understand it, and then you have their buy-in. But you need to motivate them. Preparation is a key thing. You need to do a very good preparation, and I also need to say that we have underestimated that. Creating that Excel, creating all the material, supporting the different value streams with the creation of the epic, that takes quite some time. Time management, you saw that we did participatory budgeting in 3 hours. That's very, very tight. So time management is very important. It is also one of the key elements which we introduced in that. We said very, very clearly, and that was also a question before in the chat, we said that there is a tight time schedule and that we will enforce this time schedule. If we don't come to a decision, then the fruit committee will decide. Then it gets a top-down decision. And you need to make the rules very clear, and you need to say, look, this is the frame which we have, and in that frame we can do that participatory budgeting. But if you don't achieve the goals, then someone else will decide. And that was a very good thing. And I would also recommend to you to have a very tight time management, and you need to have a very good moderation, which brings me to the point about the teamwork. Don't do that alone. Never, ever. This is something you need to do with 2 persons. The best thing is to have Nadine, and then everything is good. And what we also saw is that entrepreneurial mindset that came up, and that's really the spirit you want to have. When people are saying, hey, I will now put back my epic. We will not do this epic. Although I want to do it, but we will not do it. I want this other epic to be done because it is more strategic and it brings Zühlke a more business value. Then this is exactly what you are looking for, and that's a real cool thing. This entrepreneurial thinking. Yeah, that's it from our side.